Hello, BookTube friends. My name is Glenn. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to be talking about what I read for Shorty September this year. I read 3 books. All were authors that were new to me, although some of them, a couple of the names may be very well known to you. I read Greene's The Quiet American. I read Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, and I read A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. Now, obviously, Ernest Hemingway is a name I was familiar with. There's a very good PBS special about him, and so I had been interested in getting into his works. He seemed to have led just a really fascinating life. And so, being the emphasis for Shorty September books, kind of approximately under 200 pages. The Old Man and the Sea is just a little over 100. It was a pretty quick read. I don't have a lot to say about it. The title is pretty suggestive of what the content of the book is. It's the story of an old man in Havana, Cuba, which is, of course, where Ernest Hemingway spent some of his time. A lot of Hemingway's books, I understand, were sort of, derived from his own personal experiences. But The Old Man and the Sea is the story of a man who spends several days on a boat trying to catch fish that he can use for himself to sell to others, or to just have a reputation in the community. He is joined initially by a boy of some indeterminate age who has accompanied him on previous boat trips, but doesn't for this trip, mostly because the old man feels that he has just not been very lucky with finding fish. But he seems to have an important connection with this boy and with other members of the community. And but most of the book is this man on the open waters by himself, and that sort of adds, I think, kind of some tension to the book. And he eventually does catch a large marlin. But then, in effort to bring the fish back to either sell or display, he runs into difficulties. But some of the tension in the book is, how the man will fare on the open sea for so many days, and whether he will make it back to his community and to his friends. This book was new to me, and so I don't have much more to say about it than that. But I look forward to hearing other reviews and input about Ernest Hemingway in general, or The Old Man and the Sea. I also listened to a portion of Farewell to Arms via audiobook. Read by John Slattery of Mad Men fame. I did not finish it, although I think John Slattery is a good reader, because, again, I have not read the text form of the book. It was a little hard to follow parts of it, and then also parts of the book is set during World War I, where the character is an American, but he's serving in an Italian brigade, which during World War I was an ally of England and France, and ultimately America once they entered the war. But he's an American, but he is a ambulance driver in I think the Italian brigade, but they are based in, I think the book is actually based in France, and so much of the dialogue involves characters who are French or Italian, and so John Slattery is sort of imitating he is doing accents for those characters, and after a while, I just kind of found that sort of annoying. I sort of acknowledged that it brought some reality, some realism, some character to the actual story, but I just found it a little distracting. I might go back to it, or ultimately read the text at some point. But so that's my experience with Ernest Hemingway. I also read again read for the first time Graham Greene's *The Quiet American*. This is a book that is set in Vietnam in the 1950s, while Vietnam is a French colony, or certainly towards the end of France's kind of rulership over Vietnam, and kind of represents, I think, a transition point from kind of French control of Vietnam, or at least involvement in Vietnam, to be replaced by America, which ultimately won't become really fully engaged until the early and mid 1960s. So this book captures a unique period of time. The main character of the book is actually not the quiet American. The main character of the book, the narrator, is an English journalist, and he's a bit older, and he is a bit more skeptical and cynical. The Quiet American, that serves as the title for this book, is a younger man, and he is with the American government ostensibly as part of some sort of economic development cover, I think, but there are suggestions, hints, innuendos that the American is actually perhaps involved with America's clandestine services, the Central Intelligence Agency, or an affiliated agency, some sort of intelligence work. I don't know that for sure. This was my first read of the book, and I think there were some things I wasn't completely clear on, and I'm looking forward to. This is going to be used as a group read, I understand, for Dr. November, which will focus on sort of spy stories and Cold War intrigue. And but in any event, The Quiet American, as I said, is set in Vietnam in the 1950s, and there are three kind of main characters in the book that represent a love triangle. There is the older Englishman I mentioned. There is the younger American, who is presented as, if not naive, at least very ignorantly idealistic. And then there is the Vietnamese woman, for whom the Englishman and the American are rivals in love. She is first a lover of the Englishman, and then the American comes onto the scene and also takes an interest in her. And most of the book is kind of the inner dialogue of the Englishman, which I found, most parts of it I found very entertaining and very well written. I enjoyed kind of the inner monologue of the narrator. I think kind of the relationships and the dialogue between the three characters are not as well written. I just weren't as realistic or as captivating for me. The book sort of ends in the book comes to a rather strange ending. And again, I'm not completely sure what were the forces that led to the particular ending. I won't give the spoiler on that. I will leave you to take up the book and read it without that hanging over you. But overall, I enjoyed the book. I think many parts of it are very witty and just very well written. And I look forward to reading more of Graham Greene. And finally, I read A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. And J.L. Carr I did not know about at all until a booktuber mentioned him and this book, and the story sounded interesting to me, so I ordered it from Amazon and read it. It's a little over 100 pages, and was not an easy book to find. I didn't find it in any bookstore. It's one of those sort of it's a modern classic. It was written in around 1980, but it involves a young British man, former soldier, right after World War One. He is returning from the war, and he has been offered a short-term job in a small town for the parish of the church, and his responsibility is to restore a painting in the church. And it sounds like it was a painting, a mural that was on one of the walls of the church. And the suggestion is that this painting depicts the apocalypse. And so this man accepts this job opportunity, but at the beginning he doesn't sound very enthused about going. He doesn't sound very enthused about being in this small town, working with, and having to live among these people. And we don't quite really know what the reason for that is. It may be that and I think he is sort of understood to be from London or the city. But in any event, this is a story of this man coming into this town for the summer, and initially he doesn't appear real excited about it, and obviously he is still dealing with the aftermath and the effects of the war that it has had on him and people he knew. But he comes into the town and quickly gets to work, and surprisingly starts to become very attached to the people that he meets in the town. One of them is the wife of the vicar or pastor of the church. Another is another man who was working on the church grounds as an archaeologist, and who is also a young man who served in World War I and is dealing with ramifications from that service. And then there are people in the community that he gets to know. And so by the time we get to the end of the story, we kind of see a transformation of this character. And he is sort of reluctant I think he is sort of reluctant to leave the town, but his job has come to an end. And so that is where the story ends. One of the things I found interesting or attractive about wanting to read the book was the sort of religious context, religious setting, and so I enjoyed the book for that reason. The book is written in the first person, and I tend to enjoy those books more. And so again, I really liked getting to know this character through his inner monologue and how he relates to the different people he meets, and some of the reluctance he has to kind of get involved and do things. But it's kind of a nice, warm, cozy read. It has a little bit of a bittersweet feel to it as the man is looking back, presumably from kind of the end of his life to this period of time. But I enjoyed that book. I was glad that I found it, that it was recommended by one of the booktubers here that I watch, and so I look forward to doing more book reviews with this channel and getting to know some of you. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.